My name is Olivia. I'm 28 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Seattle called Green Lake, where the streets are lined with maple trees and the mornings smell like fresh coffee and wet earth. On the surface, my life looks good. I have a steady job managing a charming little bookstore, a cozy apartment with brick walls and a view of the lake, and a husband named Ryan, who adores me more than words can express. People look at us and say we're lucky, that we're what love looks like. But the truth is, I wake up every morning with a weight on my chest so heavy, it makes breathing feel like a chore. A year ago, I made a decision that changed everything. I married Ryan. He's 32, soft-spoken, gentle, and thoughtful in ways that would melt anyone's heart. He writes notes for me to find in my lunch bag, brings me fresh daisies every Friday because he says they match my smile, and whispers "Good morning, sunshine" every single day without fail. But I don't love him. I never did. I didn't say yes to his proposal because I was in love. I said yes because I was broken, reeling from the heartbreak of losing someone I truly did love. My ex, Daniel. He left, and with him, he took pieces of me I haven't figured out how to rebuild. I thought marrying Ryan would patch the cracks in my soul, that maybe love would arrive later like a late train. But it never did. And now I'm the one bleeding inside, while he stands outside the fire, trying to save me from something he doesn't even understand. Ryan never stops trying. He cooks my favorite meals, plays my favorite records, even learned to make coffee the way I like it. Extra cream, 2 sugars, no questions. He looks at me like I'm his world. And every time he does, my heart twists because I can't give him what he gives me. One night, we sat on the balcony, wrapped in silence, while the stars sparkled above. He looked at me with soft eyes and said, "Olivia, I know you don't love me yet, but I believe you will someday. I'll wait as long as it takes." His words made my throat tighten. I wanted to cry, not because they were beautiful, but because I had no hope left in me to match his. I was a ghost pretending to be a wife, smiling when I felt numb, saying thank you when I felt nothing, living a life that felt borrowed. My mother used to tell me, love doesn't always begin with fire. Sometimes it grows like a seed, with time, care, and patience. I wanted to believe her. I tried. But every passing day made me feel more like a stranger in my own story. One Friday evening, Ryan went all out. He cooked creamy chicken Alfredo, garlic bread toasted just right, played my favorite John Mayer album, and wore the navy blue button-up shirt I once said brought out his eyes. "This is all for you," he said, smiling like I was his whole world. I managed a small smile and said, "Thank you." But inside, I felt like I was sinking. The food tasted like air. The music echoed in an empty room inside me. It was like acting in a movie where I had forgotten the script. After dinner, he held my hand and said, "Let's take a walk." We strolled to the little park by our apartment, the same place he got down on one knee beneath a maple tree last fall. He pointed to the spot and said, "Remember? I promised to love you forever here." I looked at him, then at that tree, and wanted to scream, "I don't love you, Ryan," but my lips stayed sealed. I couldn't hurt him. He looked so pure in that moment, so full of belief. I felt like a fraud, a villain in a love story I didn't write. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with questions. Will I ever feel whole again? Will I ever stop pretending? The next morning, my best friend Layla called. She has this sixth sense for when I'm not okay. "Liv, you sound off. What's going on?" she asked. I wanted to lie. but I was tired of carrying secrets. I whispered, I don't love Ryan. I married him to get over someone else, and now I feel stuck. I don't know who I am anymore. There was a long pause. Then she said, maybe you need to step back. Maybe space could help you figure out what your heart really wants. I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. It's not about time, Layla. It's about truth. My heart doesn't beat for him. It never did. Later that evening, I sat beside Ryan on the couch. I gathered courage in my chest and said softly, Ryan, there's something I need to tell you. Before I could finish, he gently stopped me. I know what you're going to say, he said, his voice shaky but calm. Please, don't give up on us yet, Olivia. I still believe we can fix this. His eyes were full of hope again. That same painful, quiet hope that had haunted me for months. I felt like I was carrying a weight I couldn't set down. A few Sundays later, Ryan looked at me with a strange kind of light in his eyes and said, Olivia, what if we had a baby? I think it might bring us closer. My entire body froze. The idea of bringing a child into this hollow marriage filled me with fear. I looked at my hands and whispered, I'm not ready. He didn't push. He just nodded, hurt blooming across his face, but still, he didn't stop loving me. And that made it worse. His love was constant, and my silence was cruel. That night, I opened my journal and wrote with trembling hands, I feel like I'm drowning in this marriage. Ryan deserves a love I can't give him. I paused, then added, some days I want to leave. But I'm scared. What will people say? Will they call me selfish? Will they say I didn't try hard enough? One quiet evening, I stood in the middle of our bedroom with a small duffel bag in my hand, packed with just enough to leave behind the life that never felt like mine. I looked at Ryan, fast asleep, his chest rising and falling so gently, his face calm, peaceful, as if his dreams were full of love and hope. And for a second, I hated myself for what I was about to do. He looked so happy and so innocent in that moment that my legs froze. I stood at the door clutching the bag, the doorknob in reach. Freedom just a twist away. But my heart wouldn't move. I dropped the bag slowly and slid to the floor, pressing my back against the wall as silent tears ran down my cheeks. When morning came, he made coffee like always, kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, and whispered, Good morning, my love. I still believe in us. And just like that, my heart shattered all over again. I wanted to scream, stop hoping, stop waiting for someone who's not coming. But instead, I smiled faintly and walked to the window. The world outside was spinning like normal. A golden retriever ran past chasing a stick. Children were laughing at something silly, and the sun painted the sidewalk with light. But inside me, everything felt frozen, stuck, paralyzed between the truth and the fear of it. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending forever. Before I share what happened next, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? It gives me a strange kind of strength, knowing that someone, somewhere, might hear these words and understand what it means to be quietly unraveling. Please tell me in the comments. I'd really love to know. The days blurred. Each morning I got up, made breakfast, folded towels, straightened bookshelves at the store, smiled at customers, then came home and smiled for Ryan too. But inside, I was drowning. I was exhausted from pretending to be someone who fit into this life. One Saturday, he came home earlier than usual, his eyes lit up with excitement, and 2 movie tickets in his hand. Let's go out tonight, he said. Just the 2 of us? I want to see you smile again. I didn't want to go, but I didn't want to say no either. So I nodded. I wore a nice dress that he once said made me glow. I put on lipstick. I curled my hair. I looked like I belonged in the night. But I didn't. He held my hand in the theater, laughed so easily at the jokes, looked at me over and over, hoping to find laughter in my eyes too. I tried. I tried so hard to smile, but even my smile felt like a stranger's mask. When the movie ended, he turned to me and said, "That was fun, right?" And I said, "Yes, it was nice." But in my chest, the coldness only deepened. At home, he made us tea, sat beside me on the couch, and gently pulled me close. He whispered, "I missed you, Olivia." And I turned my face away, unable to reply. The guilt inside me wasn't sharp anymore. It was dull and constant, like background noise I'd learned to live with. The next morning I met Layla at a cafe near the lake. The sky was overcast, and the wind wrapped around us like a warning. She looked at me and said softly, "You don't look okay. You look tired, Liv." And finally, I told her the same truth I'd been hiding from everyone but myself. "Layla, I feel like I'm locked inside a room with no door. I want to leave, but I'm afraid. Ryan is a good man, and if I hurt him, everyone will hate me." She took my hand and held it tight and said, "No one else has to live your life, Olivia. If you're not happy, then you owe it to yourself to be honest. Ryan deserves the truth, and so do you." Her words pierced through me, but they didn't make the fear go away. What if I ruined everything? What if I left and regretted it forever? That night, I sat by the window and stared at the quiet street below. House lights flickered behind curtains, and I wondered how many of those homes were filled with real love, and how many were just like mine. Performances, Ryan came and sat beside me and looked into my eyes with something that felt like a last thread of hope. "You've been quiet lately," he said. "I feel like I'm losing you." And I wanted to finally be brave and speak the truth. But instead, I looked away and whispered, "I'm just tired. Work has been overwhelming." He nodded, but I could see the ache behind his eyes. A man trying to hold on to someone already gone. The following week, Ryan surprised me again. "Let's get away for the weekend," he said. "Lake Geneva. Just you and me. Maybe the air will clear your mind." Once again, I said yes. Not because I wanted to go, but because I didn't know how to say no. We drove for hours, winding through green hills and silent stretches of road. The lake was calm. The trees were alive, and the sky opened wide above us. But none of it reached me. It all looked like a painting someone else was enjoying. He booked a quaint little hotel by the shore, and in the evening, we walked hand in hand along the water. He took pictures, made silly jokes, tried to hold the weight of the moment in his laughter. He looked at me and said, "This is nice, right?" And I couldn't find any words to match the moment. I was drifting, lost in a dream that didn't belong to me. Later that night, back in the room, Ryan handed me a small velvet box. I opened it and found a delicate necklace with a tiny silver heart. "This is for you," he said, smiling, "because my heart is yours." I stared at the necklace, and tears welled up. Not because I felt loved, but because I knew I didn't deserve it. I whispered, "Thank you," my voice barely there. And later, when he fell asleep, I sat on the floor near the bed, hugging my knees. I didn't cry out loud. I just sat in silence, thinking about everything. How we met, how he was there for me when Daniel left, how he helped me breathe when I felt like I was falling. But the truth never changed. I never loved him. Not in the way he loved me. I married Ryan because I was broken and terrified of being alone. I thought kindness could replace connection. But now I know. It's worse to stay where there is no love than to stand alone in truth. When we returned to Seattle, I began writing letters to myself. Small confessions, secret truths. Letters I never showed anyone. Just raw pieces of me spilling onto paper. And in one of those letters I wrote, Olivia, you're not a bad person. You made a choice in pain, not in cruelty. You didn't do it with hate in your heart. You just wanted to feel whole again. That's what I wrote to myself in one of the letters I kept hidden in the drawer of Layla's old wooden desk. I was trying to understand, trying to forgive myself. And another letter, written late one night with shaking hands, said, Ryan is not your enemy. He's a good man, but he's not your home. You can't be what he needs, no matter how hard you try. Writing became my mirror. It helped me look my own sadness in the eye. It helped me untangle the knot inside my chest. A few days later, Layla called and said, You sound different, Liv. Stronger. And for the first time, I didn't deflect. I said, I'm thinking of telling Ryan everything. He deserves the truth. She paused and then said, I'm proud of you. Her voice made me feel braver. That evening, I made tea with honey and asked Ryan to sit down. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. There's something I need to tell you, I said softly. He looked at me with that patient kindness he always carried and nodded. Okay. I took a breath so deep, it felt like I was pulling it from a well inside me. Ryan, I care about you. You're a wonderful man. But I don't love you. I never really did. I married you because I was hurting, and I thought love would grow, but it never came. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat there, so still, as if he'd rehearsed this moment in his head 100 times. Then he said, almost in a whisper, I knew. I saw it in your eyes, I just didn't want to believe it. Tears filled my eyes and slid down silently. I'm so sorry, I said. I never meant to hurt you. He nodded slowly. I love you, Olivia. I really do. But I can't be the only one carrying us. If your heart's not here, I won't hold you back. Even now, even in his pain, he stayed kind. He didn't yell. He didn't blame. He just sat with me in the quiet sadness. That night, I curled up on the couch with a blanket and stared at the wall, whispering to the stillness. I told the truth. I finally told the truth. I didn't know what came next. If I'd leave tomorrow, if we'd talk more, or if everything would simply unravel slowly. But I felt something lift. I could breathe. The days after were quiet. We still lived under the same roof, but we moved around each other like ghosts. I took the small guest room. He stayed in ours. Every morning, he still made coffee, still left a cup for me on the kitchen table. But there were no notes, no smiles, just silence. At the bookstore, I tried to lose myself in work, stacking novels, helping customers, sorting orders. But my mind was somewhere else, always asking, what now? One afternoon, Layla stopped by. She wrapped me in a hug and asked, How are you holding up? I said, I'm okay. It's hard, but I feel honest now. She smiled. That's a good place to start. What are you thinking? I looked down and whispered, I think it's time for me to leave. She nodded. If that's what feels right, then it's time. That night, I told Ryan I was moving out. He didn't look surprised. Do you have a place to go? He asked gently. Yeah, I said. Layla's offered her guest room for a while. He nodded again. Quiet, still. Then he said, Olivia, I'm not mad, just sad. But maybe this is right. Maybe it's what we both need. I blinked back tears. I never wanted to break your heart, I said. He gave me the smallest, saddest smile. You didn't break it. I gave it to you, even if you couldn't keep it. And I don't regret that. The next morning, I packed what little I needed, some clothes, a few books, and my journals. I didn't want to take much. The apartment already felt too full, stuffed with quiet memories and gentle moments that never quite became love. I looked around once before leaving, at his favorite coffee mug, our wedding photo in the hallway, the gray blanket we used to share on movie nights. Ryan helped carry my bag to the door. If you ever need anything, call me, he said. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Thank you for everything, Ryan. You were always good to me. He looked at me one last time and said, Take care, Olivia. Outside, Layla was waiting in her car. She smiled, opened the door, and said, Let's go. I got in and didn't look back. At her apartment, in the small guest room with the soft yellow walls, I finally let myself cry. Not because I missed Ryan, but because of everything else. Guilt, sadness, fear. And beneath all that, a flicker of hope. Because for the first time, I had made a decision for myself. I had told the truth. I had stepped into the unknown. The days passed slowly. I stayed at Layla's for weeks. I helped her cook, washed dishes, watched reruns on the couch with her. She never pushed me to talk, but she was there, always there, when the tears came. I started going for long walks around the lake, watching life carry on. Dogs chasing frisbees, couples on bikes, strangers sipping coffee on benches, reminded me that the world keeps moving, even when your heart feels paused. It calmed me. It helped me remember that one day, I would feel alive again. One quiet afternoon, I wandered into a cozy little cafe for tea. While waiting in line, I noticed a flyer taped to the window. It was simple, faded, but something about it made me stop and stare. It said, Creative Writing Class, Community Center, Tuesday nights. And for some reason, something deep inside me stirred. So I signed up. The creative writing class met every Tuesday night in a quiet room at the local community center. Just 8 people, each carrying their own stories, their own scars. And slowly, we began to share them. At first, I was quiet. I wrote small pieces, barely a paragraph, afraid to let anyone see the depth of what I felt. But as the weeks passed, I started opening up. I wrote about the storm inside me, the love I lost before I ever truly found it, and the hope I was still trying to believe in. I read my stories aloud. My voice trembled sometimes, but it felt good to be heard. One evening, after class, I sat by the window with my notebook and wrote a single sentence. I lost love before I even found it. But now, I'm finding myself. I looked at those words, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. It was a soft, quiet smile, but it felt real. A few weeks later, I got a message from Ryan. It came out of nowhere, simple and kind. Hey, Liv. Just wanted to say I hope you're doing well. I'm taking some time for myself, too. I joined a cooking class. It helps me stay busy. No pressure to reply. Just wanted you to know. I'm okay. I stared at the message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I finally typed, Hi, Ryan. Thank you for your message. I'm glad to hear you're okay. I'm taking a writing class. It's been healing for me, too. Wishing you peace and happiness. We didn't talk after that, but it felt like closure. Not the kind that slams doors shut, but the kind that leaves them gently open. Just enough for light to pass through. Months passed. Life moved slowly but surely. I found a small studio apartment a few blocks from the bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, it had creaky floors and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I painted the walls a soft yellow, placed wildflowers in mason jars by the window, and hung a photo of the lake where I used to sit and think. Every morning, I brewed my own coffee, curled up by the window, and watched people walking to work, holding hands, starting their day. I felt lonely sometimes. Of course I did. But I also felt something new. Free. Fully, quietly free. I still thought about Ryan. Not with regret, but with gratitude. I hoped he'd find someone who loved him, the way he loved, with wide open arms, without fear. He gave his heart honestly, and he deserves someone who could hold it with both hands and never let go. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer, I found the delicate silver heart necklace he gave me during that trip to the lake. I held it for a long while in my palm, remembering the moment, the weight of his words, the softness in his voice. I couldn't wear it, but I couldn't throw it away either. So I placed it in a small velvet box and wrote a short note. Thank you for your kindness. I couldn't keep it, but I will never forget it. I left it with Layla and asked her to return it to Ryan. She understood. She always did. As the season shifted, so did I. I smiled more. I laughed again. The people in my writing class became more than classmates. They became friends. People who had seen the quiet pieces of my heart and never judged me for them. I started to feel like Olivia again. Not the lost girl pretending to be okay, but a woman standing on her own, learning who she truly was. One night, I stood in front of the mirror. My hair was messy, my eyes a little tired, but my smile was soft and honest. I looked into my reflection and whispered, "It's not a perfect story, but it's mine." I had walked through heartbreak, silence, guilt, and fear, and come out on the other side still learning, still healing. I didn't know what tomorrow held, but I finally knew this. Never marry for the wrong reason. Never silence your heart. And if someone out there is listening and feels the way I did, I want you to know you're not alone. It's okay to fall. It's okay to begin again. Just be honest. Be brave. Your heart knows the truth. Thank you for listening to my story. It's not full of smiles or fairy tale endings, but it's real. And sometimes, being real is the bravest thing we can be. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.